reading book list recommendation. I have a bunch of different genres on here for us to look at. So this first one is Clean Getaway, and it's about Scoob, who has just been grounded by his dad for all of spring break when his grandma decides to throw him a little bit of a lifeline, and she invites him to go on a road trip that she and his grandpa had planned but never actually completed. So he gets to go with his grandma in a brand new Winnebago all across the country, except Scoob is going to figure out some secrets about his grandma along the way. Amari and the Night Brothers is an amazing story. The second one is actually on my summer reading list, about a girl who misses her brother very much and then all of a sudden discovers something in his closet that leads her on a magical adventure of her own. If you like Harry Potter, this is a great new similar series of Harry Potter. The next book here is The Nevermoor, The Trials of the Morrigan Crow. And Morrigan is cursed and everyone blames her for everything that goes wrong around her. Because of this curse, she's also doomed to die at the midnight of her 11th birthday. But then a mysterious person named Jupiter North shows up just in the nick of time. And this one is pretty good if you like creepy things and mysteries. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat all summer long. This next one is the season of Six Malone. And this is won a Coretta Scott King Award. It's summer break, and Caleb and his older brother Bobby just got into trouble with their dad and stuck with bunches of morning chores for 4 long weeks. Their summer looks really boring until this kid named Six Malone comes along. They decide to hatch up a plan for an escalator trade where boys trade smaller objects for increasingly more valuable things. Their ultimate goal is to win and get some pretty high-priced items. And so if you like talking about money and trade and things like that and like to do plans with your friends, this would be a good book. The next book, this is also on my summer reading list, Tilly, the book Wanderers. Tilly lost her dad at a young age, and her mother then disappeared. So her grandparents have raised her in a London bookstore where she spends all of her time. Then one day, 2 of her favorite book characters show up in the shop, and she learns the truth. Tilly finds out that her family is book wanderers, which is where people can travel inside and outside of books and bring characters back to the real world. If you've ever read Land of Stories, this is a similar book that you might love. It's very mysterious and seems very good. The next book on our summer reading list is the Vanderbeakers. And so I know a lot of students have been reading this series in the IDC, but it's just a good book to bring back. It's about a family of 7 who finds out their landlord is kicking them out of their home right after Christmas. So the children are so upset that they decide that they're going to create a plan to save their home. This is a series, so if you like it, you can read The Vanderbeakers and The Hidden Garden next. Ways to Make Sunshine. This is also a Darby Creek favorite. Lots of students read this in the IDC. Ryan's dad loses his job, and the family has to move to a smaller house and sell their car. So then Ryan has to do her best to face a lot of issues at school, and she's getting made fun of because she has a boy's name, and then she wants to audition for the school talent show. And she has just a really awesome, optimistic outlook on life. And there's also a second book that's Ways to Grow Love. So this is an amazing series by Renee Watson. The Candy Makers, four 12-year-olds compete in a candy making contest and soon figure out that there's a spy in the midst. There's a lot of secrets and mystery in this book, and so you and your friends can try to uncover the mystery before the very end when you discover it for real. The Lonely Heart of Mabel Lane. This is a story about a girl who has never met her dad. And then she finds out that her dad is a radio DJ and is going to be judging a singing contest in Nashville. So she decides, hey, I'm going to go sign up for this. Her mom's on a month-long work trip, so she's staying with her neighbor, Mrs. Boggs, and she's very stern. So she tries to ditch out and leave Mrs. Boggs behind. And instead, it doesn't work because Mrs. Boggs ends up coming with her. But unbeknown to both of them, there is a neighbor that stows away in their car with them. This is an adventurous story that you'll be sure to love. Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson. This is one of Mrs. Gorbett's favorite books, and Mrs. Robinson has this on her reading list. Harbor Me is about a bunch of students who get sat in a classroom once a week without a teacher to talk about their lives, their friendships, and their struggles. You get to learn amazing stories from each of these students, and it's also a really great audiobook because there are different people who read each voice. So if you like audiobooks, you could check this out on Libby this summer. Another great book is the Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This is on Mrs. Gorbat's summer reading list. This girl gets struck by lightning, and ever since then, she is a math genius. She also has OCD, and she can't complete everything in her life unless it's around the number 3. So she can't concentrate on anything unless she helps recite the numbers of pi in her head. So the number pi has tons of decimals. It actually never ends, and she can recite it until the 314th decimal place. She's been homeschooled since she was 8, and she's really ready for college, but her grandma insists that she goes to middle school and makes a friend. So if you've ever read the book Counting by Sevens or Fish in a Tree, this book would be a great follow-up for you to read. This is The Parker Inheritance. So this is a story about Cadence, and her parents are getting divorced. So her and her mom are going to move from Atlanta to a really small town in South Carolina for the summer. Candace is just about having the worst summer ever until she finds a letter that was addressed to her grandmother before she passed away. And inside that letter, she finds a puzzle. Her grandmother had tried and failed to solve this puzzle, but Candace and her best friend Brandon and the shy next door neighbor are going to solve this puzzle that her grandmother cannot. So if you like mysteries and puzzles and action books, this is a great one for you. This next one, I know many of you have read Front Desk, and I think all of you would agree it's an incredible book. This is one of Mrs. Gorbat's and Mrs. Robinson's favorite books. It's about Mia, who lives in a hotel where her parents work. Her parents have to clean rooms, and so Mia decides to manage the front desk and to do her part to make sure all the guests at this motel have an enjoyable stay. The most powerful part of this story is that Mia has a really good work ethic. She has kindness for everyone, and she listens and learns about people's stories from all over the world who end up at her hotel or her motel. So this book is they also just came out with 2 sequels, so it's now a trilogy. So I would recommend this to anyone. The next book is The Mysterious Benedict Society. It's about 4 gifted orphans who go to a boarding school, and there's an evil mastermind who wants to take over the world. This is a fun mystery that you'll love because you get to solve the puzzles along with it. It's a really quick read, and there's also a second one. They're making a Netflix series or movie on this as well, so this would be a good one to read sooner rather than later. From the Desk of Zoe Washington. This is a story about Zoe, who is an aspiring chef. She dreams of trying out for the Kids Food Baking Network Challenge, and she really is a very talented chef. And so if you like those cooking shows, this would be a great one. Her dad actually went to prison right before she was born, so she's never met him, and all of a sudden she gets a letter from him. So she's never met her dad, and she now has a letter from him and has to figure out about why he was sent to prison, and maybe he was an innocent person actually in prison, and she's going to help try to figure that out and solve that mystery and learn about the criminal justice system. So if you like talking about law and crime, if you like any kind of mystery, this is a great one. Ghost. This is one of my favorites. It's by my favorite author, Jason Reynolds. Many of you have read Ghost, and if you haven't, you definitely should read it this summer. There's actually 4 books in the Track series. This is just the first one, and then after this, they can really be read in any order. The 4th one is on Mrs. Gorbat's to-be-read list this summer. But Ghost is about a boy who has an amazing talent for running, but he also has a problem with losing his temper. So he gets into fights and has a hard time controlling how he feels. Then he is at a track practice one time, and the coach decides to make him a deal and let him join the track team. But he has to stay off of stay out of the principal's office, stay out of fights, and all of those things, and that's really hard for Ghost. So he has to learn about how to handle the amazing feeling of being on a team, but also how to control his own emotions. Ghost is an incredible series. I promise, incredible book with a great series. You will love it, I promise. This next book, we have The Green Glass House, and it's the first day of Christmas break in this book, and Milo is looking forward to spending his vacation with his adopted parents at home. But home happens to be an inn, so like a hotel basically, that his parents own, and 5 unusual guests appear at this inn for a vacation, and then strange things start happening, and so Milo is going to start to solve this mystery. It's a really creepy and well-written book, so if you like creepy, eerie mystery books, this is a great one for you. City Spies. This is about a girl who is 12 years old, and she hacks into the city's computer to prove that her foster parents are actually breaking the law. And so she's really smart, but instead of setting things right, she actually gets put in front of a judge, and she's facing going to a juvenile detention facility. So then, all of a sudden, a strange man comes in and says he's going to be her attorney and help be her lawyer then for a chance to get her away from prison. Now her and a group of spies are planning to attack a youth environmental summit in Paris. And so you get to learn about the spy world of these children in Paris, and also have an action-packed book along with it. This is a book that Mrs. Gorbett just figured out about, and is definitely on my to-be-read list this summer. It's called The Last Days on Mars, and it's the sun, as we're talking about solar energy down in the IDC, the sun has turned into a supernova earlier than anyone had predicted. So we talked a lot about the sun will never go out, and many of you mentioned, well, someday it will. So this book is talking about when that happens. Since the sun has turned into a supernova, it is destroying Earth and forcing humans to relocate to Mars. But now Mars is also in danger because everyone living on Mars needs to evacuate to a distant planet. So Liam and Phoebe are the last kids left on Mars, but they can't evacuate until their parents finish essential work and to get ready for their new home on a new planet. As Liam and Phoebe spend their last days on Mars waiting to leave, they stumble upon a secret research lab, and they discover humans are in grave danger unless they act fast. So this is a really adventurous story. It's super fast-paced. It's like a sci-fi book, so I think that this looks really good. There's also a trilogy with this, so there's 2 more books after. This is also on Mrs. Gorbett's to-be-read list this summer, and Mrs. Caserta's, and Mrs. Robinson's. So the Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. It is about Avon, who is born without arms due to a rare genetic condition, but she's never let that stop her from doing what she wants to do. She has friends. She's a prankster. She even plays soccer on the soccer team. But then her dad gets a job at a Wild West theme park, and the family has to move. Avon struggles in her new school until she meets 2 new friends. And then they start to uncover some clues about this theme park's past, and it's set off in a mystery. It's a really funny, heartwarming, mysterious book. So I think everyone will like this book. There's also a sequel out to it. If you like Fish in a Tree or Out of My Mind, this book seems very similar to those books. This is another book for the summer's reading list, Lockwood and Company, The Screaming Staircase. For all of you who love creepy books, here you go. This is a world that is under attack by deadly ghosts called visitors. The only people who can sense the ghosts are children who have the psychic talent. Working for the ghost hunting agency called Lockwood and Company, teenager Lucy and 2 other young ghost hunters get assigned to one of England's most haunted houses, an ancient building famous for its screaming staircase. So if you like spooky, creepy books, here you go. False Prince. This is by another one of my favorite authors. This is by the same author as A Night Divided, so if you've read that one. The False Prince is a really good book set in medieval times, and the entire royal family has been poisoned. So the entire royal family is dead, and the kingdom is about to go on the verge of civil war. So a man named Connor decides that the only way to keep everyone out of war is to recruit orphans to pretend like they are the royal family and pretend like they're the youngest prince, and then restore order in the kingdom. So Sage is one of those orphans who's chosen to train, and he's very snarky and stubborn and rebellious. He's a really funny kid, and if you like the Hunger Games and those kind of stories, you would also love The False Prince. It's also in a series, and there's a second one of this if you enjoy it. The last book on our to-be-read list is Charlie Thorne and the Last Equation. It's about 12-year-old Charlotte, and she is a super genius who goes by Charlie. She's been recruited by the CIA to solve a powerful equation developed by Einstein. The equation is the key to solving the world's energy crisis, as we're talking about solar energy. But the evil world leaders and criminals don't want to use that because they want it instead to make a weapon. So it's a race to see who can solve this equation first to figure out the energy crisis or the end of the world. So, oh, whoops, I forgot to switch to it. Sorry, friends. So that's the book that I was just talking about. There you go. All right, so here is Mrs. Gorbat's to-be-read list this summer. You're going to have a chance to fill this out with your class if you're interested, and then maybe you can create a list, and then when we come back to school in the fall, I can't wait to hear about which books you read and get some recommendations from you so I can read some new books. But these are my books, and then on the side it says, when will I read? So I tell myself I'm going to read 30 minutes every morning and every day, so that way I have a time to read for sure. And then I also know that I'm going to have big chunks of time on a plane, and then I'm also at the beach. So I plan to read all of those times this summer, and then you are going to have a chance to fill out your own summer reading list with your class, and you can fill this out on paper, you can fill this out digitally, and then your teachers can print them, you can upload them onto Google Drive, whatever works best for you. So thanks for listening, friends. I can't wait to hear about all the amazing books you read this summer.